Hey everyone, it's Toot here, and in this video I want to talk about the Xbox One Elite controller. When I started playing Rainbow Six Siege, I was using the regular controller that came with the Xbox One, and after a while I started to want something that gave me a little bit more control, and after reading about the Elite controller and looking into it, I thought it might be something that would be useful for me. When I got the controller, I found that it wasn't quite as configurable as I'd expected it to be. I thought the paddles underneath would be configurable so that you could have quite funky combinations of buttons or do different things, but all you can actually do is map them to buttons that already exist. So really all you're doing is adding 4 extra buttons in a different location that can do things you can already do. So it's not quite as brilliant as I thought it was going to be, but it is still very handy to have those 4 extra buttons. So those 4 extra buttons are actually paddles that are underneath the controller, and you can map these to do any function that any other button can do on the controller. So you can mimic clicking the left stick, clicking a trigger or a bumper, or any of the face buttons is what you can basically do. So what I wanted to do with this controller is set up a couple of key settings that would hopefully make Rainbow Six Siege easier for me to play and do certain things. Let's take a look at the first one of those settings that I wanted to change. The first button I wanted to change was the bottom left paddle, and I wanted to make that a ping button. The reason being is because with it being on the left of the D-pad, when you want to ping something you have to take your thumb off the left thumbstick, and this means stopping moving. So let's take a look at how that affects what I wanted to do. So here, as you can see, I'm behind cover, leaning over to the left and moving in and out of cover, and as I move out I can ping to let my teammates know something's over there, and I can do that without putting myself at risk. I can just move out, ping, move back in, and not change my leaning position or anything. I can literally just strafe out, ping, strafe in. Now if I use the left button on the D-pad, as you can see there, what you have to do is move out, take your thumb off of the stick, move it onto the D-pad, ping, and then move back in. This takes longer. It means you can't shoot really easily when you're aiming down the sights if you come out and ping, and it just makes it easier having it on that paddle if I'm using a character like Monty, where I want to constantly move and ping to let people know what's happening in front of me. So that was one of the key button mappings that I wanted to initially set up. Now the second mapping that I wanted to make was here on the bottom right paddle, and that was to set it up so that it was the crouch button. Now the reason why I wanted to do this was, again, I don't want to be taking my thumb off of the right thumbstick to have to crouch. In most cases it's probably okay, but if you look here, for example, you run forwards and I can squeeze that paddle and turn as I go into a crouching or a prone position. If you don't have it there, it means you've got to take your thumb off of the thumbstick, move over to the B button, hold it down, and then go back to the thumbstick. This means you've either got to crouch or prone and then turn, or turn and then crouch or prone. You can't do both at the same time. So I feel that this just makes me a little bit more agile to get around a corner to go into a prone position, or if I ever fancy doing a drop shot, which isn't something that I do at the moment because I never think to, it should hopefully make it a bit easier and give me more control when I'm going up against an enemy and need that extra bit of control to move around, reposition myself, but at the same time keeping control of my aim. So those are the key paddle configurations that I wanted. Also there, as you can see, the top left and right paddles have been set up to mimic the left and right thumbsticks. Reason for that is because when I'm aiming, if I want to do a melee attack, I don't particularly want to affect my aim, and when I'm leaning, when I'm aiming down sights, I don't particularly want my gun barrel to go all over the place, because as I'm clicking the stick, I've accidentally moved the stick a little bit whilst doing that click. And the same goes for the left thumbstick, and if I start running, I don't want to accidentally move the stick left or right and not be in the position that I want to be in. So I added those buttons there so that I just had that extra bit of control and didn't have to ever click the thumbsticks at all. And here let's take a look at the thumbsticks. So looking at the left thumbstick, you can change the way that they actually react to being pushed, and here I've got it set to be on the smooth setting, and you can see a graph there of how that actually works. So it works like a normal stick until you get to about halfway, and then the responsiveness suddenly drops off and then sharpens up towards the end of the push. And you can see there, as I move the stick, the bright grey represents where the stick is, and the light grey shows what the software or the game is actually registering as that push. And then as we look at the right stick, you can see I've got it set to delay. I've done this because I'm getting old now. My fingers are aren't quite as gentle as those younger Siege players out there. So without the delay setting, I found that my aim would be all over the place. But I found that since changing it to delay just a week or so ago, I've been hitting headshots a lot better, and it just feels like I've got a bit more control over my aiming by using that delay setting. So I'll continue using that for a little while, make sure that it is working for me, and then I might try increasing the sensitivity in Rainbow Six Siege itself so that I can aim faster but also without just aiming all over the place and have that degree of control over it. If we look at the triggers, I've got these set up so that you can only press them down so far. As you can see there, a full squeeze of the trigger only does maybe 2/3 of a press. Now, if you use this configuration in a racing game, you'll find you won't be able to get full acceleration or full braking. But in a game like this, where you're just using the left and right triggers to aim down sights and then fire, having that shorter throw on the triggers helps a little bit to get you a quick fire or a quick scope. It's not as good as I thought it would be, but it is still an improvement on having the full length of the trigger. There you can see you control the vibration of each trigger and each rumble portion of the controller to different settings. I don't have them to the max because I don't want my fingers to be vibrating off the buttons or moving the buttons as the controller vibrates in my hands. So I've got them set low enough that I can feel it, but low enough so that it doesn't interfere too much with the gameplay. And then finally we've got the brightness of the guide button. I set this to be quite low so that I don't have too much impact on battery. It's not really needed to be bright, so I just set it down to almost to the lowest possible setting there. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to subscribe and share the channel with your friends to help me grow our community as much as possible. If you are on Xbox and want to bring me into your team for some games or link up with some of the guys I play with, then please drop me a comment with your gamer tag and we will see if we can set something up. Thanks guys, catch you next time.